They beat up on the Chicago White Sox. I got our Twins expert, Sweet Lou Hennessy. He's going to help us break it all down. It's all coming up next on the Locked On Twins POSTCAST.
You are Locked On Twins POSTCAST, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up? What's up? Back in the lab, back at it. Another Twins POSTCAST episode right here on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Network. You got myself, Luke Inman, at Luke_Spinman. That's the man in the flesh, Sweet Lou Hennessy, Twins expert over at Zone Coverage MN. He's on X at Sweet Lou MN. And Lou, before we jump into all the action, quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers, you're getting $150 in bonus bets with any bet. Guaranteed. Go check it all out over at FanDuel.com/locked on. All right, buddy. Twins coming in, obviously struggling, 3-7 in their last 10. Meanwhile, just 2-6 at home inside Target Field this year, trying their best to get back on track, find a groove here, so to speak. No better way to snap out of a funk, I'll tell you, than to play the Chicago White Sox. Not only worst in the bigs, 3-18 this year, but also a team you dominated last season too. You won 5 of 6 versus this team at home in 2023. So just huge opportunity. You got 4 straight home games versus this team to kind of get back on track. That's exactly what they did. Rocco Baldelli today, I love this. He starts the lineup out with 3 straight lefties in a row. It was Kirilloff, Ed Julian, and then Trevor Larnach. And man, did that move pay off, because for really the first time this year, the Twins bats really got cooking early in this one, right out the gate. And maybe no better feeling, by the way, too, Lou, to watch out of everybody tonight in that lineup. Max Kepler starts out the night with a 2-run double in the first. Man, that was a sight for sore eyes, getting him back in the lineup after that 10-day IL trip. He looked refreshed. He looked crispy at the plate. 2 big hits in his first 2 at-bats, 3 RBIs on the night, and a run scored. Another guy who looked good at the plate, Trevor Larnach. Remember, former first-rounder here. He looked great at the plate. 1 for 2, 2 runs scored, an RBI, 2 walks on the night as well. The other side of the mound, Chris Paddack, he looked super sharp tonight. 7 strong innings, 5 hits, no earned runs, 10 Ks. It just felt like that was exactly what the doctor ordered tonight. Twins don't just beat the White Sox. Felt like they kind of exercised a couple demons along the way, because they finally got some runs on the board, especially early in a game. They win it 7-0. They get their first shutout of the 2024 season. So I'll just kick it over to you, Lou. Give us your biggest takeaways and kind of A topics first and foremost to get going.
Yeah, look, there's no getting around it. This was one where both sides of the ball for the Twins, they needed to eat. They needed to get full. They needed to get fat tonight. And like you said, the Chicago White Sox are just what the doctor ordered, especially at this point in the season. But look, it's refreshing. It's good to get back on solid ground here, especially great for Paddock, who had a difficult start last time in Baltimore against a much better lineup. But he ate it that time, and he came back this time, and he had a 6-shooter on him as the sheriff. So really good for him. Good to see him back on the mound and feeling good.
He looks like a literal sheriff too, with the long flow, got the stash, the facial hair, the whole thing. I absolutely love it. Which one were you more thrilled to see tonight? The 6-run explosion in the first 4 innings at the plate, that finally gives this team a little momentum, a little confidence, or Chris Paddock just wheeling and dealing, slicing up this team for 10 Ks and no earned runs. Both were pretty sweet to watch. And no, I don't really care. Honestly, I don't care that this is the worst team in baseball. I really don't. Not after how bad the Twins have struggled as of late. Both were a great thing to watch tonight.
Sure, you can say all you want that, okay, you just got to look for the softer part of the schedule, but you got to remember that the other teams are looking at the exact same schedule. And if you're coming into this series on a pretty cold streak, as the Twins offense has been, they're looking at you and licking their chops as well. So it's good to establish that, yes, it's a difficult time for the offense, but to hop back on when you can. So yeah.
Just to even get 2 runs in the first inning, seriously, that felt great, because remember, the Twins were second to last in the AL coming into tonight with only 6 runs scored in the first inning this season. So that alone, again, just 2 runs in the first inning, that alone was nice to finally see. Let's just dive in a little bit more. Chris Paddock's day, because remember, they couldn't get a dub versus the Tigers their last series with Pablo Lopez on the mound. They couldn't get one the next game with Joe Ryan on the mound. Yesterday, we saw Louis Varling kind of get chopped up and in turn set down AAA. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So I guess just how huge was this to get this kind of start from Chris Paddack, a guy who I personally think is kind of maybe some low-key pressure to help this starting rotation kind of stay afloat right now and just keep giving them some more quality starts like he did tonight.
Absolutely. He came in and he was the stopper tonight. Trying to stop that skid of right where we're at here. But it's huge for him as a player too, because I don't think the last time he had completed 7 innings was back in 2021 when he was with the Padres. That was a whole Tommy John surgery ago. It seemed like a lifetime. But it's huge for him to come back and to accomplish 7 innings, which, we've seen a quick hook early before, but he earned it this time. He got a ton of swinging strikes. He had 10 Ks on the night, 7 with the fastball, which was looking very spotty for him last time around, but he was really, really locating it well tonight, up and above the zone, getting those chase pitches.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you what was working for him so well tonight. I thought you just gave a good kind of quick little breakdown and kind of deep dive. Again, a lot of swings and misses. And again, that heater was working, good location, in and out. And again, 64 strikes on 96 pitches. Really glad, we'll touch on this here in a second, but really glad Roco let him go for that 7th inning and didn't pull him when he certainly could have. And certainly there's a history with Roco pulling some of these starters somewhat early. Roco report. I'll just tee you up right now. Just tell us your favorite or least favorite decision or whatever it may be from tonight's game, game 1 versus Chicago, the Roco report. It says what?
Yeah, sure. So this actually comes from a decision he made last week with Chris Paddock when the game was lost pretty early when he was out on the mound. But Paddock, being the veteran that he is, said, hey, let me eat this one. Let me go out there. Let me eat some innings, work through some stuff on the mound. Whereas someone younger like Louis Varland has a quicker hook because you don't want him, getting all out of whack. But with Paddock, I like that Roco trusted him last time around to keep building his arm, especially for that pitch count, so that this time when things were going right, his arm was fresh and he could keep going all the way to, I think he had 96 pitches tonight, upper 90s at least.
Yeah, and easy to say now in hindsight, not trying to be a prisoner of the moment, but having 4 of your first 5 batters come up as a lefty, I thought was huge. That just paid off big time tonight early in the lineup. And then again, you touched on it. You never know with Roco, no matter how good of a pitcher looks on any given night. I think we all have a little bit of muscle memory, maybe some PTSD. Sometimes he's just going to pull that guy a little bit too early, an inning or 2 early sometimes. Not the case tonight. And I just absolutely love that. Again, he let Chris Paddock come in for the 7th inning after allowing just no earned and get up to that, almost 100 pitch count, 96 to be exact on the night. Some box score scouting here. I always say it doesn't tell the whole story, but it's just something to go off of here. Let me pull the box score up. I'll just rip off a couple of these numbers. Kirilloff, 1 for 4 with the run scored. Julian, great night, 3 for 4, 2 runs scored, 2 ribbies with the home run. That was great to see. Trevor Larnach, I already touched on. He had a great night. Ryan Jeffers, 1 for 4 with the run scored. Kepler, again, great bounce back. Great to see him start out those first 2 at-bats with 2 smoke shows, just line shots into that right center field spot. Same exact spot, first 2 at-bats, 3 RBIs on the night. Willie Castro, 2 for 4. Austin Martin, unfortunately, 0 for 4. He snaps that 7-game hit streak. Just what jumps out to you when you see that box score? Anything for good or bad?
Tonight felt like one of those nights where the plan coming into the game for the offense actually clicked and it actually really worked. Like you said, almost from top to bottom. We saw at-bats from guys like Julian or Larnach that really attacked early on. What was really impressive to me, what stood out was Larnach for sure. In his first at-bat, fouled a few pitches off, worked a walk, saw a ton of pitches for the next guy down. Then his next time around, he comes in, and I think the first pitch he crushes to right center field for a double. So it was one of those where the plan really worked tonight, and it was a good one.
Yeah, well said. All right, plenty more deep dive from this one. Plus, we got our nerdy stat of the day coming up. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by Prize Picks. Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million subscribers to date. And there it is. And for me and my money, it's by far the easiest and simplest and most exciting way to get in on all the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. It's so simple. All you got to do, you pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. Spring training is over. Baseball season obviously underway. So whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, home runs, first inning runs, you name it, take your pick on more or less and add them to your Prize Picks entry today. Or you can get on all the NBA playoff action and win up to 100 times your money on the Prize Picks app. Plus, Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions and special offers for the biggest moments in sports. Not to mention, love this, they now offer Apple Pay for quick and easy deposits into your account all season long. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. One more time, that's code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Okay, just quick little update. What's the latest on Royce Lewis and Carlos Correa? Just as of like 2 guys that this team obviously still desperately needs back in the lineup right now. As fun as tonight was, scoring those 7 runs, they need these guys back. Any word when we might see them back in the mix and just how they're holding up, how they're progressing, developing down in rehab right now?
Sure. Carlos Correa, he's eligible to come off the injured list tomorrow. That will not happen, but
Okay.
they got some pretty good updates on him, saying that his symptoms have improved dramatically. This intercostal strain is one that can have it's pretty common to have setbacks if you kind of go into it too fast into that recovery period. So they're taking it easy, but it sounds like he's feeling good. He's feeling much better. And he should get back on the field, hopefully sooner rather than later, at least get into some baseball activities. Royce Lewis, I think Nick Paparesta said that he's got a lot of boxes to check still before we get to the point of getting in any sort of a rehab assignment. But Royce is also feeling good, and they're just going to take it one day at a time. He can hopefully start do some running later this week, which is huge for the quad injury.
Oh, man, so huge, man. It's been what now, 3 weeks, 3 and change?
Yeah, coming on. Yep.
Somewhere there. So, again, we all knew this was not going to be something that we could just rush this guy back. Too severe of an injury. And not only that, such a long gauntlet of a season here. He is just too important piece to the puzzle right now to absolutely rush back and then, end up causing more harm than good later on in the season. So, as much as we want him back right now, man, and as much as I would love for you to come on here and say, okay, he's getting close. If that's not the case, that's not the case. You just can't push it. And, I'm just thinking about the lineup here tonight. I mean, we finally got to see Max Kepler come to life, right? 3 RBIs tonight. Trevor Larnach, we talked about this. Don't forget, that's a former first rounder who I know a lot of people inside the organization and in the fan base. A lot of Twins fans still have a lot of high hopes for him. He continues to look good. I'm really liking what I'm seeing right now. Still think he's got a chance to just be a really solid ball player for this ball club. I really do. You got Ed Julian. ESPN had him as a 30 home run guy projection. He balled out tonight. Again, we just talked about the box score, 3 for 4, home run, 2 ribbies. Kirilloff started out the year as maybe their best hitter. Jeffers is coming off, a week-long heater not too long ago. My point is here, Lou, all of a sudden, hopefully in the not-so-distant future, but you add Carlos Correa and Royce Lewis back into that lineup next to all those young names, and then you got to hope, obviously, Byron Buxton's back comes alive at some point as well. Not to mention, too, Austin Martin, again, coming off that 7-game hit streak, just hit his first home run of the year yesterday. He, too, is a former first-round pick, actually a former top 5 pick in 2020, so really just still scratching the surface with him. Lou, I mean, does that lineup all of a sudden make you feel a lot better about things? Because we all know it's such a long season. We too, just as a season and a team as a whole, we're just scratching the surface on this long season, despite the slow start. I guess I'm trying to give some fans some optimism and some hope here. Do you see the same potential here with that lineup, or do I need to pump the brakes a little bit?
Sure. It's very easy to be pessimistic on the Twins offense based on how things have gone so far,
Sure.
but you got to remember that this was not their plan A. They're not even working on plan B really.
Right.
This is somewhere deep down the line with what for the majority of the season so far, they haven't had the 3, 4, and 5 hitters in their lineup, ideally. So we're dealing with kind of a backup plan here, and it shows some nights. There's no hiding that. But you got to remember that there is a bigger picture here, and that hopefully they can kind of build back to once some of these star players return, and hopefully some of the veterans that we've seen struggling so far can step up too and kind of get out of that funk and reestablish themselves as actually part of a contributor on this team.
Yeah, and I mean, hey, let me clarify. I'm not saying this is like the 27 Yankees murderers row lineup here or anything, but I do think the best is yet to come. And who knows, maybe even by the All-Star break, we could very well be watching a team on track to win this division in back-to-back seasons again. That's all I'm saying. I see the potential there. A lot of young talent on this team that, with every young guy, no matter the sport, really, they need their time. They need their reps under their belt to progress and develop. And again, it just takes time. That's the only thing. And as much as they've struggled, as a whole, the entire team top to bottom this first 3 weeks, this thing is far from over. And I think, it looks nothing like what we're going to end up watching come August and September, if everybody can stay healthy, which obviously, hey, knock on wood, that's obviously a big if, especially with this Minnesota Twins team. It feels like every year. 21 games into the year now, who's the one guy that's impressed you the most? And then who's the one guy that's been the biggest disappointment compared to your preseason expectations? Feels so long ago now. It's only 21 games, but about 3.5 weeks ago, preseason expectations to now. One guy who's impressed you the most, and then maybe the biggest disappointment as of now.
I did not see Alex Kirilloff becoming a must-have staple in, everyday, day-to-day player.
He's been fun.
That's been huge for them, especially with someone who hasn't impressed me so much, of Carlos Santana, who I think they did intend to be that everyday type of player. Unfortunately, he hasn't gotten the bag going. He looks good on defense, but it's been huge to have Alex Kirilloff kind of reestablish himself and start driving the ball. You know that things are going well when he's hitting the ball very hard. And that's what's happening so far. He's got to sustain it. He's got to show us that he's got a healthy season, because we've seen flashes before. We've seen this before, and whether it's his fault or not, he's gotten injured and it's interrupted things. Now we want to see a sustained, successful version of Alex Kirilloff.
Yeah, well said. 2 good names there and a lot of good points and some substance in there. Why, that guy's impressed you, and why Santana, obviously. Yeah, Frank thinks he looks cooked. He really does look cooked so far. Again, long season. We kind of knew the risk reward going in. Older guy, obviously. What's those legs look like? Any juice and pop left in the bat? So far, it doesn't really seem that great. All right, nerdy stat of the daytime. You got any fun or crazy stat or analytic you kind of got locked and loaded you can share with us?
Yeah, sure. So, as I said at the beginning of the show here, this was a game where the Twins offense had to eat, and they had to eat early against Chicago's starting pitcher, the starting pitcher for the Chicago White Sox. Over the last 2 weeks, Chicago White Sox starters have a brutal 8.21 ERA, which is by far the worst in the big leagues. The Twins in that time are 5th worst with a 5.24 ERA from their starters. So it has been a tough stretch for Twins territory, but just remember that it's a little rough on the south side of Chicago right now.
Yeah, no, well said there. Love that. All right, don't go anywhere. We're going to preview the rest of this series coming up with the Chicago White Sox, and that's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode is brought to us by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and official sportsbook partner of the MLB. Right now, it's playoff time in the NBA and NHL, not to mention, obviously, baseball's in full swing, and that means FanDuel's your #1 place to be to bet on all the action. Check this out. Right now, new customers, you're getting $150 in bonus bets, guaranteed. $150, win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on the app that's safe, secure, and easy to use. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and official sportsbook partner of the MLB. I just want to touch on this real quick, too, while I got you. Louis Varin obviously sent back down, as we touched on the top. How big of a blow is that, I get? What's your outlook on him moving forward? Like, do you still have high expectations, high hopes for him? And do you think he can get back up into the mix sooner than later? Or kind of just the forecast on Louis Varin right now?
I absolutely have high hopes for Louis
Okay.
Varland going forward. I think this will be good for his development. It was yesterday's game. It was pretty clear that keeping him up here to try to work through some of these wrinkles, try to iron some of these out, might not have been in the cards this time around. And there were some things that he needed to fine tune. And it's better for him to do that at the AAA level as long as the rotation can swing it. I was in the press scrum yesterday after the game with him, and he looked rather dejected. He's usually a pretty positive, easygoing guy, even after some difficult starts, but he's no stranger to how challenging things have been with this team. And he was disappointed as much as anybody else yesterday. So I'm hoping that a nice soft reboot at AAA will be good for him in the long haul.
Man, you never want to hear any player just kind of down in the dumps and feeling a little dejected like he is. And it totally makes sense. There is the human element that sometimes we forget when we're watching Sports Center, watching some of these games. These guys are real humans too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just something that's kind of still blows my mind once in a while, covering so many other sports like the NFL, right? NFL draft coming up. I'm a big draft nerd, all this and that. But baseball's that one sport, man, where, the elite of the elite, right? That top 15, 20, 30%. Yeah, they're always up in the bigs. But those guys that shuffle in and out, down to the minors, back up, mentally, man, I can't imagine how exhausting that's got to be and how much that just kind of wears on you, right? Over the stretch of not just one season, but multiple seasons, like a lot of these guys just have to go through. And obviously, that's just part of the process in baseball. But man, that human element, man, you're right. Just to hear him dejected, knowing he's going back down, just kind of bums me out because I'm rooting for him, like I think a lot of people are, for sure.
Absolutely.
All right, let's close out. Quick little preview for the rest of this White Sox series now, because here's what's great, I think, about getting this big dub with Chris Paddack on the mound in game one, because now you got Pablo, Joe Ryan, Bailey Ober coming back for games 2, 3, and 4. And I know we're a long way away from, a sweep or anything like that. But man, even if you can get 3 of 4 here, I mean, that would be such a huge swing, such a great feeling before you head to LA and take on the Angels on the road on the West Coast. So just talk to me about this 1-2 punch here. Pablo, Joe Ryan next on the mound these next 2 games, and the Twins' chances of, racking up some more dubs along the way.
Yeah, not to mention with Chris Paddack too, with a great outing tonight, him and Ronnie Henriquez taking the lion's share of all the innings. Really rested some key members of their bullpen, which is going to be clutch. They're in the middle of a stretch where I think it was 11 games in 11 days, something around there. Mm-hmm. And for a team that had it seemed like an off day every other day coming out of spring training here, it's going to be a trek for them. So it's good to get the bullpen rested. And like you said, going with your 1, 2, 3 starting pitchers and Pablo and Joe Ryan and Bailey Ober.
Yeah, 13 games in a row, it looks like. Obviously, you just had that Detroit series. Now you got the White Sox, and that was nice because it's 7 in a row at home. So that's great. Then you got to go on the road, West Coast to LA again for the Angels next. And then the next road trip following that, at least it's the White Sox again. A struggling team, so hopefully you can bounce back there. And then you got 2 more series at home. Red Sox, Seattle Mariners back-to-back. So that's going to be interesting to see how all that plays out. Again, we're almost a month into the season now. Last one before we get out of here. What's been the biggest surprise for you throughout the entire MLB? Could be for good or bad, could be a player, a team, anything. I know I asked CJ about this last game. We talked about how the Astros have really been struggling out the gate so much like they have. But, what team or, again, what player has really surprised you the most almost a month into the year?
I've been thoroughly entertained by the Pittsburgh Pirates. They've been kind of bottom dwellers for the last few years.
What year is it? When's the last time somebody said that sentence?
Definitely. Yep. Yeah, no. So it's been great to see their starting pitching start to develop here. So they have the top pitching prospect in all of baseball, and Paul Skeens, who was selected first overall last year. He actually just diced up the Saints last weekend. He's going to be up in the big leagues pretty soon. Jones and Keller are 2 other options that they're going to have a good 1, 2, 3 punch, and they've been really been fun baseball for the Pittsburgh faithful over the last couple of weeks. Yeah,
I love that one. That's awesome. All right, man, let's get out of here. Well done, per usual. You obviously know what you're talking about. Always a lot of fun talking Minnesota Twins baseball with you. Yeah, let's get the bats cooking tonight. They take game 1 from the White Sox with that 7-0 win. Chris Paddack, 7 strong. He gets the dub. Game 2, Pablo Lopez on the mound. First pitch for that one, another 6:40 p.m. Central Standard Time start. As always, huge shout out to everybody that joined us on the stream. Rest assured, we'll be back each and every game, same time, same place, right here to break it all down. And quick reminder, got to go check out all Lou's work on Twitter at SweetLouMN. Best handle in the game, SweetLouMN. Plus, all the work you're ripping up over at ZoneCoverageMN.com. Anything up there right now we can go check out that you've been working on or that's yet to be released maybe, but that's Twins related.
Keep an eye out later this week for something about Pablo Lopez. I'm going to be at the game tomorrow, and I'd love to chat him up after to get to the bottom of a few things, get his take on some stuff. So keep an eye this weekend, hopefully.
That's awesome. Can't wait to check that out. You're always ripping it up over there. And if it's not too much trouble, make sure to like and subscribe. Help us get to 8,000 subscribers. That's always much appreciated. Not to mention, you can always find all our Locked On Sports Minnesota content wherever you find your podcasts. We're talking Apple Music, Spotify, and other various outlets as well. That'll do it for us tonight. He's Sweet Lou Hennessy. I'm Luke Inman on Twitter at Luke_Spinman. Until next time, signing out.